Hello, fellow audio nerds. I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. So as you know, as a reviewer for Major Hi-Fi, I get to listen to a lot of headphones. And this week I listened to a headphone that really just kind of blew me away. And I don't put that lightly. It really was a special product in almost every way, and super innovative. It's the Meze Empyrean, and if you're familiar with like high-end audiophile headphones, I'm sure you've heard of them. But what's so special about these headphones? And does its sound signature kind of fit with the type of sound signature that you like? Well, let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, Steph here. So today I've got with me the Meze Empyrean, and I'm super psyched to give these a listen because, yeah, these are some really cool headphones, and I've actually had met with the folks from Meze in the past, like when they were still developing the product, so I'm really excited to see kind of where it is now that it's finished. So let's take a look inside the box here. Obviously, first things first, this is like a James Bond kind of like case. It's really kind of hefty and nice. So yeah, let's see what's inside here. First things first, you actually have the option of 3 different cables when you buy the Empyrean. So for this demo unit here, I've got the 1/4-inch cable. Got some documentation here, information card, a little thank you note from them. That's so cute. That's a nice little touch. And then, you know, some other information. Then we've got these ear pads. This is the Alcantara pad. The headphones actually come with 2 sets of ear pads, so you get the leather pads, which are on the headphones, and then the Alcantara ones. So those are really nice. And then, of course, the headphones themselves. And, like, aren't these absolutely gorgeous? So, yeah, let's talk about the design of these, because I think there's definitely, like, a few pieces of really interesting and innovative technology that went into these headphones, and that make these headphones really special. But first off, just, like, by the looks of them, I think they have a super interesting look, because it's sort of like, you'll see on the ear cup here, there's this really like intricate kind of grill design, which is really attractive, and it kind of has this feeling of like, it's intricate, it's classy, it's expensive, but it's also like kind of gives me a feeling of like vintageness, like old, fancy stuff, I don't know, like jewelry almost. But then that really like contrasts in a beautiful way, I think, from the yokes, which give me more of like a mechanical, modern feel. So it's a really kind of cool looking headphone. First things first, the headband. So it's a 2-tiered design, you'll see. There's this carbon fiber along the top for like the frame of the headband, and then this this layer, this headrest underneath, which is made of leather. It's got the Empyrean logo right there. It looks really cool. And one really special piece of technology with this headband are these you'll sort of see at the base of the leather, there's like a really firm piece of that leather. And this is like known as a distribution wing, and it's patented by Meze. And what it does is it like makes this leather headrest go like more fully across the entire part of your head. It's supposed to be comfortable and good. Let's see. Whoa, holy crap. This feels like super interesting, actually. It's weird because like when you hold the headphones in your hand, they're not heavy by any means, but they have a sense of like weight to them that you can like feel from like the metal of the aluminum on this frame. But when you put them on your head, it feels like even lighter. It's really cool. Really cool feeling, and it's super comfortable. I like it a lot, and it's also like really bendable and movable. You can really like, I think this will work for a wide variety of heads. Then that said, when I look here at the yokes, so attached to this like carbon fiber headband, there's this aluminum frame. The yoke has a really interesting design, but everything just seems like extremely well balanced. Like Meze did so much research and development with this headphone, and it clearly paid off. The attention to detail is just like incredible. The extender here attaches to like the frame of the ear cup. yeah, just really, really beautiful. Moving onward, one of the most interesting designs of the entire headphone as a whole, to me, is actually involved with the relationship between the ear cups and the ear pads. So the way the ear pads stay on here is from this, it's a magnetic situation. And it's nice because it makes the ear pads like super easy to swap in and out and take off and move and whatever. But more interestingly, this design actually contributes to the efficiency of the driver. So basically, I don't have like a great understanding on this, but it's all on Meze's website, so you should definitely read about it. But I can sum it up by saying, like, basically the magnetic field that's created by the driver gets demagnetized by the magnet that is keeping the ear pad in place. And this basically like doubles the power that the driver would otherwise have. And basically makes it a more efficient headphone. So that's a super innovative design and just like super cool that they kind of thought to do that in general. And then as for the ear pads themselves, you'll see that they follow the shape of the ear cup, which is an intentional shape of the ear cup. Basically, Meze wanted to keep the weight of these down as much as possible. They wanted to make it a really comfortable headphone, and that meant like making the shape of the ear cup follow the ear as closely as possible. So that's what these headphones do, and that's what these ear pads do as well. It's a pretty thick ear pad, you'll see. It's pretty much, yeah, it's totally symmetrical, like all the way around. It's got a nice like fluff to it, if you will. And then, yeah, it's coated in leather. On the inside ring of this ear pad, you'll notice that, let's see if I can really kind of show you. It's perforated leather on the inside. You can see it a little bit up there. And it's actually the same sort of design with the Alcantara ear pads as well. Whether you are sensitive to heat and don't like leather, or yeah, you do, you can kind of get like whatever you need out of the headphones because it comes with the Alcantara as well. Now moving on to the cables, basically when you buy the Empyrean, you get three options. You get either a 1.3 meter cable with a 3.5 millimeter connector, a 3 meter cable with the 6.35 millimeter connector, which is what I have right here. And then lastly, there's an option for a 3 meter cable with a 4-pin XLR connector balanced. So that's pretty cool that you get the option of whatever cable you want. As for the one that I have with me, you'll notice that when it's all coiled up, it actually doesn't take up very much space at all. It's a really tight coil that you can make with these, which I think is cool. That said, I do think the cable's a little bit stiff. You'll notice that right here, it's kind of this shiny cloth material that is like the jacket of these. And it's also like a flat style cable. So the combination of those two things makes the cable like a little bit hard to manage. It's just kind of like wants to coil everywhere, and like, yeah, it's just not super easy to manipulate in space. But I mean, whatever. It's looks like it's made extremely well. You'll notice that the part that connects to the actual headphones is a mini XLR, and these connectors just feel like super well made. Obviously, they have the Meze logo on there. It is an OFC cable as well, so I'm really actually super excited to give a listen to these headphones. The amount of like attention to detail put into the headphones in general is remarkable, and just makes me super excited to give them a listen. I do want to, I'm in the description box, I'm going to throw up a link to the Meze website because they went to extreme detail to put, extreme lengths to put like all the science behind these headphones. Now these headphones feature the Renero isodynamic planar magnetic driver, and it's a really interesting driver, and I want you to check it out for sure because it's really cool, and they will explain it way better than I could. So yeah, check out the description box for all of those details. Now, what I'm most excited for here is giving these headphones a listen. You'll notice they're pretty big on the head, but it's funny because like it doesn't bother me at all, and it's a really light, super comfortable headphone, like probably one of the most comfortable headphones I've ever tried. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be gushing over these headphones this whole review, I'm pretty sure. So basically, the kick drum, I was just listening to the song Lazarus by David Bowie, and the kick drum sounds super full, realistic. It has a lot of great energy and spaciousness around it, yet somehow feels like laid back and just like aesthetically pleasing. It gives the kick drum like the clarity that it needs while not making it overpowering in the mix, and it feels super even. So yeah, it's a really really good sounding low end that I think is going to work well for a wide variety of genres. Yeah, it has just like a sense of naturalness to it. The kick just had this like, what's the right word? It was just like seemed really easy. Like the headphones didn't have to try too hard. In other words, there is like a sense of quickness to the lows, but it's interesting because like other headphones, when they're quick, sometimes that quickness can come across as like a sense of hardness. But I don't get that feeling from these headphones at all. Like rather, the kick drum still remains like it has this smoothness and softness, but it's still really quick, so it's really detailed at the same time. I don't know, it's cool. All right, I was just listening to a really intense song. It's Elzic's Farewell by Old Crow Medicine Show. And what I was really trying to listen for in the mid range here was just like how the sense of separation sounded, because obviously, like how I was describing the low end, this quality of like quickness but also smoothness, I was wondering how it would handle a really dense, fast arrangement with instruments that were all sitting in the same frequency range. And that's what happens in this song. It's like a lot of fiddles, the mandolin, like a lot of times in most headphones, you can't really distinguish between the fiddles and the mandolin just because they sit really similarly in the mix in regard to like the frequencies, the spaces that they take up. But with these headphones, I certainly got a sense of separation from them, and it was super interesting because there was still that sense of like kind of like evenness and smoothness, but still maintained the sense of clarity for each individual note of the fiddle, which is moving really quickly. So I'm super impressed with how it's handling these like dense arrangements and how it's handling the sparse ones. It's really interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I was just listening to the song Roll with the Punches by Dawes. Now, the low mids feel super full and yet like even and not overly emphasized, but just have a really good sense of separation from the rest of the mid range. Now, the thing that I thought was really interesting in this song in particular was that like the sense of separation felt super musical and like extremely well done because the electric guitar and the bass in the song want to feel really big. They're playing like a similar rhythm and contribute to the groove in similar ways. Um, but if but they basically had enough separation where you could really hear the difference between the two, but enough kind of homogeny and naturalness and like kind of I don't know, that feeling of like unity that made them still feel really big. Like they weren't too separated, but they were separated enough where like it felt really detailed. I don't know. Yeah, really interesting. And then additionally, there was still nice separation too between the electric guitar and Taylor Goldsmith's vocal. Now his voice sounded super natural and even. I wasn't really getting too much of a sense that any part of the high mids was overly emphasized. Maybe a little bit of extra emphasis at the top region of the high mids, and like a little bit of a dip at the lower region of the high mids, but it still felt really full. Like his voice didn't sound thin or like it was balanced in any sort of way. It just sounded really natural and even in the mix, like sitting right where it should be sitting level wise in the mix. Wow, this is beautiful. I was just listening to the song So Tender by Keith Jarrett, and the highs are really beautiful. Now, the cymbals in the song, you could hear the full harmonic complexity and really hear the difference in tonality between the different cymbals as they're played. That said, they all sort of feel like skewed a little bit toward like their texture and their air, which makes them really pretty. sounding. The thing that I thought was really interesting about those cymbals is that because of like the quickness of the headphones and like the spaciousness in the highs, the attacks feel somewhat like emphasized but don't feel louder in the mix. Like you could really hear the attacks, and it actually made me really enjoy the song even more because I could hear the skill in like the specific hits that the drummer was playing, was hitting, without those being overpowering like level wise. So I thought it was kind of an interesting high end one that was really, really beautiful. As for the soundstage, yeah, I was just listening to the song Quizás, Quizás, Quizás by Pink Martini. And yeah, all three dimensions feel really, really well done. Lots of nuance. So, for example, um, there's obviously like a really kind of dramatic difference between the shaker, the guiro, and like the upright bass, which is, solid down by my chest. The others feel like really high in space. Um, but like to fill in those in between like those extremes, like the strings for example still felt like very, very accurately placed in the middle, and yeah, there was just a really nice sense of nuance, and I felt that across all three dimensions. So in regard to like the sense of width, for example, the strings which are panned out super far contrast really dramatically with like the center vocal, which feels, like clearly in the middle, really strongly in the middle. But filling in all that space with like the keys and the nylon guitar and the shakers and guiro and percussion, all just felt really, really specifically placed in space and accurately placed in space. In terms of the sense of depth, like I got a really similar feeling from it as well. For example, the horns, the percussion, the vocal all feel super, super intimate, like right in your face. And that contrasts super drastically with things that feel really far back in space, like the nylon guitar. Um, but then all of that sort of like the space is filled in a really beautiful and accurate way with like the strings and the harp and everything that kind of fits, feels like it's between those two extreme places. I'm super impressed with the soundstage and just impressed with the headphones overall so far. I'm definitely going to keep listening though throughout the week, see if I can kind of articulate in a more kind of full way what exactly is going on with these babies. But anyway, I will see you back at the Major Hi-Fi office for my overall thoughts. Here we go. The low frequencies of the Empyrean are full and supernatural sounding. They have a real sense of realism to them. And yet there still kind of seems to be this slight emphasis there that kind of gives it all life. There's a quickness to the low frequencies that kind of creates this sense of spaciousness around them. So they feel both like big and full and really kind of give you nice emotional impact, but they still sound supernatural and realistic, and it's a really cool combination. And as a result of that, it works well for a wide variety of genres, for genres that really kind of need like a big like emphasized low end, and for genres that need like an even and natural low end. The mid-range of the Empyrean is really interesting actually. So there's sort of this sense of clearness and quickness and specificity to it, but somehow there also kind of feels like there's this sense of softness to it. And as a result, it makes it work really well equally for instruments, or sorry, for mixes that have a really sparse arrangement or for songs that have a really dense arrangement. It sort of is able to give clarity and precision to enough to those really dense mixes so that you can really hear the separation between everything, but it also has this sort of like fullness and softness that works really well for more sparse mid-range songs. As for the sort of layout of the mid-range, the low mids feel super full, but they don't feel cloudy at all. There's a really nice evenness to them and to the middle part of the mid-range. As for the high mids kind of have a little bit of emphasis toward the top part of the high mids because of a kind of a wide, small dip at the base of the low mids. And it doesn't really change the tonality or make it sound unrealistic or anything. In fact, it still sounds supernatural. What it really does, though, is it creates this beautiful sense of separation between the super thick, like mid-range, harmonically complex mid-rangey instruments from vocals. And the vocals, likewise, don't sound tonally different than they should. They sound kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a perfect sound to me for a vocal sound. It just kind of works with what the mixer wants to give it, you know? As for the high frequencies of the Empyrean, I would say, you know, there's a really nice energy to them. There's sort of this really beautiful, dynamic feel to the high frequencies. And I mean, across the entire kind of frequency spectrum as a whole, but with the high frequencies, it just adds this sense of energy and funness to it. But in terms of the frequency response, in the highs, this is where it starts to diverge from the sense of realism that I've been describing for the rest of the frequency response. And here's why. The lower treble feels even, and there's a little bit of a kind of like wide dip that happens at the top region of the lower treble. Now, when you get to the upper treble and the upper octave, that's where you kind of get some boosted energy there, and that's where the high frequencies tend to lean. So as for cymbals, percussion, vocals, strings, there's sort of this sense of, while it feels super harmonically complex, and you'll definitely get the feeling of character, you know, from specific cymbals, and you'll kind of get the feeling that you need from those instruments, it does lean toward that upper treble and upper octave. And as a result, it creates this kind of like airiness and this lightness and almost like a, I don't know, maybe I would describe it as a delicacy to the high frequencies. As for the soundstage of the Empyrean, this is one area that is gonna make y'all feel super psyched about these headphones. The soundstage does an amazing job of being both super extended, like there's a great sense of depth, a great sense of width, really nice extension in the highs and lows in terms of the vertical kind of space. But it also does a really amazing job of maintaining a sense of intimacy where intimacy is intended. And there's just a really great sense of like accuracy and nuance. So for example, when you have really wide instruments, that contrasts really strongly with something that's straight up the middle because the width feels super wide and the middle feels super strong. However, there's also a really beautiful and accurate sense of space that fills in that gap, kind of creating a really strong emotional impact for mixes that use width as a way to create that impact. Same thing with the sense of depth. You'll hear things further off in space that are meant to be far off in space. And that contrasts super strongly with things that are really close to you and intimate sounding. But all the space in between is filled up in a really accurate and intentional way. So you can really hear what the mixer was intending with the placement of those instruments. Overall, the Empyrean is a really, really special headphone, one that was beautifully executed. It's super comfortable, it sounds amazing and works well for a wide variety of genres and a wide variety of types of mixes, ones that are really dense and ones that are more sparse. One thing I really love about the headphones is that it's super quick sounding without feeling hard. There's this sort of this softness to it that makes it really beautiful and also makes it easy to listen to for a long duration. So if you're one of those people that listens for a long period of time, and if you like a really nice big soundstage, I think you'll really, really like these headphones. My only complaint, and this is like me kind of nitpicking things, is that the cable is kind of stiff and hard to move around in space. But honestly, that is like a very, very small kind of piece of negativity to go along with a headphone that is otherwise kind of perfect, in my opinion. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to read kind of my own review about the Empyrean, see some more pictures, and kind of hear more about like the driver situation, you can check out the link in the description box below to the Major Hi-Fi blog. But otherwise, thank you. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe.